So in these slides, before we go into the scorecard, I would like to introduce you to Jim, Peter, who are working with our team for a customer in a short use case scenario to create an example that uses the products, the processes, and integration rating criteria that you've seen in the BIM scorecard. So after introducing you to their situation, their current process, I will fill out the BIM scorecard for the estimating or cost planning capability with that as a starting point. So meet Jim. Jim is an estimator, and he creates his estimate with an estimating software package. And he typically starts his projects by copying and pasting information from an earlier project into a new file, and then he modifies it, he tweaks it a little bit so that it reflects the status or the scope of the new project. In addition to that software package, he's using a calculator and some manual quantity takeoff tools, and he also prints out the drawings so he can look at where quantities are located. When he's done, he delivers the printout of the estimate along with the 2D drawings to his manager, who we will meet in the next slide. So he can go to the meeting in a nice 3-ring binder, and at that point his manager is all set for the meeting. What then typically happens is that about 4 weeks later he completes a second and then third and fourth version of the estimate with the revised design, updates to the design. He creates a printout of that too, and along with the other printout, his manager is again set for the meeting. Peter is Jim's manager and attends the meetings with the owner and the other members of the project team. And with binders and drawing sets, Peter is always well prepared for the meeting. In the meeting, Peter is sometimes asked how price information from subcontractors is included in the cost plan, and he sometimes gets asked about the changes in prices and quantities. The last time when he was asked about the change in the lobby and how that affects the budget for interior finishes, Peter could only answer with, well, we need to check that in the spreadsheet, and we actually need to open up the drawings. So the customer, as a consequence of that bit of an uncertain answer, is not convinced about that answer and is not sure whether the number that is presented to him is really what he will need to pay in the end. And also the fact that the team could not clearly explain where in the drawings the quantity change came from when he asked the question about the floor finishes. That worries him, and he's not at all convinced that that this is going into the right direction. So the question is, wouldn't it be easier if you would have cost, takeoff quantities, and design information all in one place? So wouldn't it be easier if you would see cost information, how it relates to your takeoff quantities, and where that is in the design? And also, to answer that cost and quantity variance, wouldn't it be easier if I would have version 1 and version 2 side by side generated automatically for me, and I could see what the difference is between the two versions? Now, keeping that in mind, we have the 3 aspects that we're going to score. Product is the first one. Jim is asking a set of cost planning tools, his software package. His knowledge database really is a collection of previous projects that he typically copies from. The visual feedback in Peter's case, and which is what Peter needs to use during the meeting, is the 3-ring binder with the cost plan information and printouts of the drawings. Versioning is done by creating a new printout and putting that in a different binder. As for best practices, Jim has developed his coding structure, which is based on CSI master format. And his knowledge database means that the same codes are used in the previous projects as well, which means that he can find similar codes in the previous project and copy that over. Progression planning is not really done in this case, so there's no progression specification for cost information. Jim does not plan up front what he wants to include in the next iteration of his cost plan. He kind of looks at what is contained or what is included in the next design iteration and kind of takes it from there. So really opportunity driven. There's no use of BIM, so he doesn't have anything in place such as the AGC BIM addendum. As for integrated processes, there's no integrated quantity takeoff. Quantity takeoff and cost planning are done as separate activities. So the quantity takeoff is done manually or maybe automated using an on-screen version of 2D takeoff. There's no model-based quantity takeoff, so the design is not integrated with the cost planning work. Also, to look at downstream integration, quantities and resources that Jim calculates in his estimate are not used in a schedule. So the resource loading that happens later on in the schedule plan is not coordinated with the numbers in the estimate, which may lead to discrepancies. So let's look at the scorecard. This is what the scorecard looks like in the spreadsheet that was sent out to you. Here we have the categories, and we just looked at the cost planning capability. The software solutions is about the products that are currently in use, the software package for estimating in this case. Best practices is about the process that you're currently using, whether that is shared with the department, and whether that is a standard throughout the company. Integrated processes means my information came from an integrated step upstream, so the quantity takeoff is integrated, or it is going to be used downstream, for example, for schedule planning. So let's open up the spreadsheet. Let's open up the BIM scorecard. This is what you received. As you can see, I already entered some of the scores for portfolio and project management. I think that I'm quite happy with the current software solution that I have in place. The best practices that I have developed for that are well documented and followed by all of my team members. And all of the processes that I have in place are integrated through with the other steps in my process, in my planning process. So now let's take a look at cost planning. I am happy with the capability of the software package, but it doesn't offer all the things that I would like to do. So in this case, I will put in a 2. As for best practices, I'm very happy with what I'm doing, or Jim is very happy with what he's doing, but the methodology is not used by all of his colleagues. So the coding structure that Jim has in place and his knowledge database, those are all in his computer and not shared with any of his team members. So best practices is also 2. Integrated processes, the quantity takeoff, as we said, is completely separate from the estimating exercise. And also, like we said, the information that is calculated, the quantities and the resources, are not being used downstream. So schedule planning does not take advantage for the work that Jim has completed. So because of that, I'm going to rate myself, or I'm going to rate for Jim with a score of 1. As I fill in these scores, you can see here in the graph how that stacks up. So as for cost planning, my current score is satisfactory, but as you can see, there is a gap between what I currently have and what would be ideal. My current BIM score, based on what I filled out, is 29, where the maximum score would be 99. Now let's scroll down to the next step in the scorecard, which is where you define your priorities for improvement. If you believe that cost planning is really important as a point of improvement, then that is a high priority, which is rated with a 3. If it does not have any priority at all, You rate a 0. Anything in between is rated with either a 1 or a 2. So I enter a 3 for cost planning. The team is convinced that something needs to be done there to make it more integrated and to share best practices with everybody in the team so that knowledge information becomes wider available and gets updated continuously. And that results in a collection of weighted gaps where we multiply the gap with the priority, and for cost planning that results in this score. So there's a medium gap and or medium priority between what I currently have in place and what would be possible if I would have an improved set of best practices, maybe a better product, and most likely more integration.